right, guys, welcome back to the show. I'm not going to say the Whiskey Shaman podcast again. Oh man, I said it again. No, tonight we got a special guest tonight, Justin Whaley. He's doing some cool stuff, and I think you guys need to understand what he's doing. So without further ado, here's Justin.
Thanks for having me, man. As you said, my name's Justin Whaley. I am the assistant distiller at Spirits of French Lick in West Baden, Indiana. I've been working there a year and a half now, pretty much since last April. Started out very, very part-time, honestly, just going there on my days off and really hanging out with Alan, and was doing it for free at first, and decided to leave my prior career. The ambulance I left of my own accord. The fire department actually got fired, which turns out it's honestly better off anyways. But been working under Alan for a good little while now, learning there at the distillery. There's stuff that I try to learn every day. That's one of my sayings is, if you're not learning something, or at least trying to learn something new every day, or you can't admit that you're stuck in a kind of a spot, as far as no matter what your career, you're kind of stagnant and it's time to get out of that career. Haven't really made any strides as far as making my own spirits yet. That's just something that I'm hoping will come in the future, as far as there at work. But I have been able to help a whole lot on some blends, single barrel selections, things like that, and then obviously the normal day-to-day stuff. Running the still, mashing in, running both stills. We have multiples.
Oh wow!
As I said, doing the cook or mashing in, and cleaning and all the maintenance stuff that goes along with it as well.
Yeah. That's really cool. And you also have a podcast as well. And tell us a little bit about that. And I'm guessing it kind of goes through your journey, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So I started it out just because I'd always kind of wanted to do a podcast, but I never really. So when I worked on the ambulance, I wanted to do something healthcare related. Well, like, I'm a good teacher when it comes to hands-on stuff, but once again, like we talked about earlier before we actually started recording, just talking, I'm not great at sometimes. So I just kind of let that go by the wayside. I'm like, look, I've got my own way of doing things on the ambulance and all that. And then I wanted to do something fireside, but that's so divided, as far as, small departments, big departments, all that. And I was like, look, I don't want to get into that argument with people. And then I picked a distilling podcast as if that's not divisive enough, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah,
absolutely.
It's called Still Learning, kind of a little play on words, because as I said, I'm a firm believer that you should always be learning something new, or at least trying to learn something new.
Absolutely.
It just so happens we run stills when we're distilling something. So a little play on words there. Alan, I think, said it best, is eventually I'm going to be able to go back on these episodes and look back on my knowledge base as far as starting out and seeing how I progress. I think that's going to be a good indication for me as far as where I'm at learning wise, and the things that I'm picking up, the things I need to go back and study some more, all of that. But also I think eventually it'll be a pat on the back to me, because I went from liking bourbon and whiskey, and that was really about it, and understanding distilling a little bit, to where I am now, where I'm going to be in 5 years, 10 years, and do it that way. Also, I think eventually I might do some writing. I like writing. I just, once again, I don't always stay on top of things, and if I don't stay on top of it, I won't do it. So this is a good way for me to kind of look back and use it as an audio book to maybe one day put out some type of literature.
I found out the hardest thing when you're starting a podcast, and you've probably been at this longer than I have, but one of the hardest things is going back and listening to your own stuff, hearing the sound of your own voice and critiquing your own stuff, because you're like,
oh my Lord,
man, I was so stupid. Why did I say that? And I saved it and recorded it and gave it to everybody to listen to. Yeah, that yep. To me, it has been, we're just over on this podcast. We're just over 20 episodes. So that's 20 something weeks I've been working on this. So like, it's a pretty good amount of time. and the research, and I've got papers all over here, like of things I've been writing notes on and stuff like that. So like and I always tell my listeners, I'm trying to make it the best episode I can each time, make it a little bit better than it was before. And I think that's kind of what you're doing with your stuff. And now apprenticing in at the distillery, you get the hands-on part of the job as well. And so you get to relay that to people, which to me, that's really fascinating because, obviously being into whiskey and stuff like that. And I know you guys, after talking to Alan, I know you guys have a plethora of things that you're doing, but like being into whiskey, knowing the ins and outs of how it's made makes you appreciate that glass of whiskey a whole lot more. So tell us a little bit of,
you really do.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about like why. I mean, obviously you said you were hanging around the distiller and just decided to join in, but was it just that you were excited to end the whole process, or how did you bite the bullet, I guess, and just say, hey, I'm going to work there?
Yeah, so I 100% fell into the job there, and I'll get into that here in just a second. And I don't have this big romantic history as far as distilling goes, like Alan does.
Yeah.
But I do have a little bit of, I guess you could say, family history of illicit distilling that goes way back. Or I shouldn't say way back, but my uncle, who lived in Georgia, he ran Shine, and I would venture to guess that he did it to make some money, but then he was also just doing it as something fun to do and give to friends and things like that. My aunt always told a story about him always doing at least one run during deer season when the men went to deer camp, and he would always take that with him for everybody to drink at deer camp. And I always remember, when I was younger, a mason jar getting passed around at family gatherings and stuff like that. And it always kind of intrigued me. Unfortunately, my uncle, and I venture to guess that if I would have asked, being the age I am now, he would have taught me. But unfortunately, he passed away. It would have been 2013 or so. Okay. So I never had that opportunity. I had looked into getting into that myself prior to ever even getting to set foot in a distillery in the way that I am now.
Right.
But I was always afraid of getting into it without any help. I actually did get to run a still once with a friend, and that kind of hooked me a little bit more. And then the way I kind of fell into this job, and in Indiana, we have a very or I should say a very short list when it comes to the distilleries that we have here.
Right.
So, I didn't know that I was going to do this full time. I didn't know that I was going to make a whole career change when I started out doing it. I'm glad that I got my foot in the door and was able to. But I did some charity boxing when I was with the fire department. Cops and firefighters boxing for charity. I got to punch a cop in the face and not get in trouble for it, which was fun. But I went and did a distillery tour the day after one of my fights with some friends from TikTok that was kind of in the bourbon community there. And I can't remember exactly how it went, but I think Tiff had mentioned that I did drone work and stuff like that. And they asked if I could do some photography or video, and I did. And then Alan asked if I'd like to come in and hang out sometime. And so I did once, and then I was like, can I come back? Because I've worked like 3 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week at the fire department, the ambulance, and that was it. And he said, yeah. So I was coming in like once a week, and then eventually like, hey, we need to start paying this guy or get him on the roster in case he tries to die at work or something like that. And it just, like I said, I just kind of fell into it. I don't know if I would have chased this as much as I am now, or as much as I have, if I hadn't fallen into it there and gotten fired from the fire department. I was looking for a way out or a way somewhere else. Our dream's kind of to move at some point in time. Now it's going to be a little bit further down the road because I obviously want to stay and learn as much as I can for as long as I can. Right. But that was kind of the goal. But this is giving me more opportunity because I was about ready to age out to be able to move anywhere fire department wise. So this has honestly been a blessing. long story short, like I said, I fell into it. I've always had a love for science,
Yeah.
chemistry.
Yeah.
So I guess this was just another branch of that, and I'm still like on the low branches, obviously,
Right.
of understanding anything when it comes to this shit. But
Wow. Wow. That is so cool. And you see this a lot. You know, I've done a couple of podcasts with different people, and everyone has told me that they were around somebody who was moonshining or running illicit liquor or something like that, and that sparked their interest. And then next thing you know, they're at a legal distillery making the product that they were trying to make there. And it's really cool to see that. And also how, and this will get into Alan's spiritual side thing, but it's funny how the whiskey spirits led you to this place. You were just hanging out there, and then one day you're like, hey, I could work here. You know what I mean? So that to
yeah,
me is really cool. That, and then now I'm guessing it's a full-time gig, correct?
yeah, I'm there full time. And something, not to change subject, but I do want to touch on something here in just a little bit,
Mhm.
because you talked about Alan and his spirituality.
Mhm.
There's some weird shit that between he and I that
Okay.
I will probably never be able to explain. But it's
Okay.
just weird how the universe works. But yes, I'm doing it full time now. It's the only job I'm doing. My mom gives me shit all the. Can I cuss on here? By the way, I
Absolutely.
apologize.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
Blow it up.
Yeah. So my mom gives me shit because when I left the ambulance and the fire department, I was like, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to slow down. I will be able to come around more. Granted, when I worked the ambulance, it was the same county that my mom lived in, so I was able to go up and hang out just pretty much whenever I wanted. And she was like a mom to the whole station.
Right.
But like I told her, I was like, I'm going to slow down, and I have not slowed down. So she gives me shit about that all the time.
Yeah. It happens. And in my dreaded day job, I'm a plumber by trade, own my own business. And I have that hard time as well. Like, I told myself I'm gonna, especially now during the summer where we've had, good Lord, the listeners are going to be so pissed at me because I keep talking about how hot it is, but like we've had this is probably the 20th day of over 100 degrees. And so it's like, I'm trying to break off early, stay cool, stay hydrated and all that stuff, but it's just not working. I keep telling myself, you need to break off early, you need to do this, you need to relax, and I just can't. And so I totally get how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So this stuff
go
with
ahead.
Alan, if you're okay with me touching on that for a second.
Absolutely. Let's go.
So spirituality wise, like Alan has kind of opened me up to some stuff that, like I was always the questioner when it came to spirituality, mainly because I wasn't so much raised in church, but I went to church some, and then like small town, you know how that is.
Mhm.
That wasn't my thing. It's like I don't. It's not that I don't agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree with how you treat people, type kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And when I first met Alan, I kind of thought he leaned one way as far as spirituality went, and then I figured out that it's this way in all of it. It's not just one road, which
Yeah.
is crazy to me. But so like when we went to Beck's Mill, or when we were brewing in a stone beer is what we were doing.
Okay.
We're mashing in a stone beer. And there's a lot of people there. People like some of these people I'd never met before, but I've instantly felt like family. And it's something that I hadn't had for a long time, even being on the fire department. I kid you not. Like we drove to Allen's because we were going to go to supper. I bawled my eyes out the whole way there because it's like, oh, I found people that get me. You know
Holy
what I mean?
crap. Okay.
It was just a like serious like existential crisis, freaking out, and I didn't know why.
Yep.
But the whole thing with me and Alan and stuff that I probably never be able to explain. So I'm sure you know the story, or Alan has told stories about Sparrow, Moonshine
Yes.
Mike, Stallings.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you know how you grow up, and your parents have friends, and they're kind of like aunts and uncles, right?
Yeah.
So where I grew up was in Shoals, about 20 miles from where I live now, about 20 miles from work. But that's where I grew up. And Alan had told me after Sparrow passed away that that's where he grew up as well, right? And I was like, huh. Well, he was a little bit older than me,
Right.
but I was like, I didn't know him, and Alan had just known him for about 5 years or something like that, and I had never met Alan prior to all of this, but I was like, I know that name from somewhere, and then I realized that a friend of my mom and dad's growing up, his last name was Stallings, so I reached out to this gentleman. I said, hey, this is weird, but there was a guy that was a friend of a friend that passed away. His last name is Stallings, but he's originally from Martin County. And he said, was his name Mike? And I said, yeah. He goes, that was my son. So it was just weird how, like, Alan and I kind of came together as far as being friends and brothers and coworkers, obviously. And like I joke all the time, like he talks about, living next to the creek with a train track right next to him. If you look at where I used to live, was next to the river with the train tracks right next to me.
Wow.
And it's just so many weird freaking similarities. I don't get it. Like Tiff, my wife gives me shit all the time. She's like, you guys got a bromance going on or whatever. I was like, he's a brother. I love him.
Yeah.
But it's just weird how all that shit works out.
Yeah, it is. It's that's pretty good. The similarities that come along with all that, and the fact that you kind of knew this person but didn't know the person. And I've heard a lot, obviously, through Alan about Mike, and evidently he was an amazing person. Didn't know him personally. Actually, I had heard about him in the I moderate Jesse's Chase the Craft Facebook page, and a while back, I mean, probably right when he passed away, somebody was talking about that, and I was like, oh, I've seen a video with him or something in it. And so, like, I've known about Mike for a while. He just never came on my radar, a little too far down, I guess. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how all of those things line up, and it's all over, this spirit, which is in the glass, but it's also not just the spirit in the glass. And, this is not a, this is not a spirit centric podcast, but it's funny how all of that goes together, and how it really is the alchemy. You're bringing those people back from the dead. Like what y'all are doing at Spirits of French Lick is really amazing, paying homage and tribute to all of these people around there that were basically the cornerstones of the area, and you're paying homage to them both in the spirit and in the legacy that they leave behind. And that's really cool. I really, I wish that, because I live in a small town in Texas, Central Texas, and it's a huge German community, and they always made homemade wine. And so I've been on all of these groups and all of these things, trying to find a recipe for the old school German homemade wine, because I want to recreate that and have it as like a product, not to sell or anything like that, but to extend that legacy, because it's fixing to die. If people don't start, like, understand that, hey, with these older people, they had all this wisdom, and they knew about all of these things. Like, if we don't take that and kind of run with it, then it's just going to die with them. And that sucks, because it totally takes us a step back in the whole distilling, brewing, winemaking community, because because back in the day, back in the 1800s or whatever, they didn't write down recipes. They were like, add this, do this, it'll be fine. So to actually get somebody to tell you word of mouth, hey, this is what we did, and they recreated it every year because it was at the harvest or whatever. They recreated it every year, and it was amazing. That's something that I feel like Spirits of French Lick is doing, but I feel like a lot of these craft distilleries and stuff like that, they're trying to bring back. They're trying to bring these old recipes, these old yeast strains and stuff like that. And I feel like that's going to be an insurgence of bringing the history back. And I don't know how you feel about that. Sorry about the rant, but yeah.
No, you're good. I love that stuff as long as it's legit.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as the story that they're telling is legit, and or the one thing that I can't stand, and I won't mention the distillery, but there's a distillery in Louisville. I went there before they actually had their bourbon and their rye produced. They were doing like sweet shines and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they were going to be having rye and bourbon produced within the next like 4 and 6 years or something like that.
Right.
So I ended up going back down when they released their rye. It was like $90 a bottle. At that point in time, I didn't have near the collection or whatever you want to call it that I do now. And I was like, $90 a bottle is too much. And then even then, not knowing much about the industry and all that, I was like, this is a new distillery, right? But they had bought the old place and like they told the story of the old distillery and just kind of rode on the coattails like that. And I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, blaze your own trail, bring back history. I love that. But do it in a way that it's respectful to that history and you're actually bringing light to it versus just trying to ride the coattails of it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I know, like here in Texas, there's a lot of distilleries that are bringing up these older recipes from Scotland, and like Balcones, they're all about bringing up Scottish recipes of different types of malts and different corn varietals and stuff like that. And I know y'all deal with a lot of different corn varietals as well. And they're basically like reviving all of these recipes, and it's really cool to see. And of course, with transparency, of course, that they're not just trying to ride the coattails of somebody or just it's a gimmick or something like that. Because the true aficionado or the true person that's gonna like you'll sell bottles, that's fine, you'll sell them, but the people that come to your distillery over and over again are gonna know the bullshit from the other. So you have to stay transparent through everything you do. And I know I've probably beat this into the ground way too many times, but transparency is such a big thing. It's such a huge and it doesn't matter what you do, just be transparent about it. I don't care if you're on a stripper pole, be transparent. I don't care, just say what you are.
Well,
so
and there's so many big accounts out there as far as social media goes that one person gets upset about your transparency, that gets posted, then one big person sees that and blows it up. How well it's either going to be like you got the whole thing, even bad publicity is good publicity, but is it really?
Yeah.
In this industry and with this crowd, I don't think it is, because once you kind of piss the group off, are you going to have to wait 15 years for the next generation to maybe forget about it?
And we've kind of seen that, and I'm not trying to talk about Texas whiskey all night because I could talk about that for hours, but we've seen that in the Texas whiskey community is you'll see these distilleries come up, they'll do their thing, they're not transparent about what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they fall to the wayside and they say, oh, we're local, we're this. Well, you're sourcing squib juice and trying to put it out there as as a local distillery, and it's like everybody can see through the bullshit. I'm sorry, it's good, your whiskey's good. I mean, MGP makes great whiskey, but at the same time, say what you are, and so we've kind of had to weed through those. And so like the guidelines, like everybody's talked about in the past, is having all these laws and stuff in place. It really does help, but you can't. I mean, so much stuff flies through TTB, like the labeling process and stuff, to where they can't see every label. They're not going to know exactly what you're doing, and what you say you're doing might not be what you're actually doing as well. So it's really hard. So clinging on to those distilleries that are producing their stuff, they're telling a story with what they have. They're blazing these new paths, but yet living with the heritage. I think that's going to be the new wave of the future. Yeah, I mean, like I've said it 100 times, Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, they're going to be there forever because they're a heritage brand. But these newer guys are going to be the ones that are paving the way forward. And it's crazy. And I feel like I know Alan and I talked about this, but like if Spirits of French Lick doesn't basically shit or get off the pot to either expand out and start getting to more product, they might fall back because you're not going to be able to get as much outreach as they want. So it's kind of one of those things like when you're at that crux of I need to expand or am I just going to stay where I'm at, that takes the community to push them that way. And I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah, that's kind of
I wholeheartedly agree. Like I would never want to see us be straight 50 states everywhere. It's just not something that I like. I like the mystic part of it or the hard to get stuff. Like I don't want stuff to be allocated, but
right.
I like the fact that someone might be passing through and try it in a bar somewhere where they're on vacation, and then they might have to make a trip to French Lick to actually get it.
Yeah.
Like I like the idea of someone having to take a trip somewhere, maybe discovering something new to get something. So I don't ever want to see us like in 50 states. I think that's way too much. Right. But I do think that we're gonna have to, like you said, kind of shit or get off the pot, and start doing some I won't say big things, but moderate things.
Yeah.
Because we've already done some big things to get some stuff out there.
Right.
And Alan has done really, really well with that, pushing everything. But we're gonna have to do a bunch of moderate things, I think.
Yeah.
To stay relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, because
like as I said earlier, with the social media craze, you can't just rely on brick and mortar stores.
No.
Like there's too much there, people to get lost when it comes to anything distilled or any type of alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair.
Yep.
So you're going to have to rely on word of mouth and the storytelling and people being intrigued by what you're putting out, whereas somebody else might just put out a couple whiskeys and a couple bourbons and try to call it good.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing that Spirits of French Lick kind of has the corner in, is that make great product. I've only been able to try one product because it doesn't come down this far, but making great product, but also telling the story behind it. And it's not as allocated enough to where you can't get it, but like they sell on Silbach. I can't get that in my state. So it's like, it's one of those things like you can get it. It's just, you can't, not everybody can get it, which for some people is fine because, I can get it. I can call somebody, he can get me a bottle. That's fine. But yeah, no, it's, I don't know. It's crazy to see where the next couple of years lies with all this, because I think there's going to be changes in the TTB. I mean, already in Texas as of September 1st. See, we have a 3-tier system here, and we're only allowed 2 bottles of whiskey per month from the distillery. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, I heard that. Alan was telling me
that. So as of September 1st, it's going to go up to 4 bottles, which I'm like, great. That's a little bit more, but it's better than nothing. And I'll take it. And these are baby steps we have to take to get to, like, if I wanted to come to, let's say, Iron Root Republic, and I had to make the 6-hour drive up there, I'm not going to walk away with 2 bottles. I'm sorry. I'm not going to. I'm going to, do what I have to do to get not a case, because I don't need that many, but like, what if they have a single barrel? What if they have a special release? What if they have a freaking gin that's awesome? That's anything anything alcoholic, you're only allowed 2, and then you'll be allowed 4. But it's like, so then you got to get your wife involved, and she's like, I don't care, but if they made it to where like, hey, keep it under whatever, don't buy the whole store, but yet I can go to the liquor store and buy 8,000 bottles and then say nothing about it. So it's just kind of, yeah.
That's just a distillery rule then. That's not liquor store or grocery store.
Absolutely. So we're 3-tier. So it has to go from, you can buy at the liquor, at the distillery, 2 bottles, but then it has to be distributed to a liquor store. We don't even have them in like supermarkets and stuff here. It's only liquor stores, which are closed on Sunday, all that stuff. And when you go to the liquor store, you can buy whatever you want. But guess what? the liquor stores are only going to put so many bottles out, and they're only going to put the bottles out that they think are are going to sell. So I actually have talked to
Yep.
my local liquor store, people, and I'm like, hey, I have a availability to get a single barrel of X. Would you? Because I can't get the single barrel personally shipped to me. So I have a chance of getting this single barrel. How do you feel about it? And they're like, oh, we'd probably take 6 bottles. And I'm like, no, it's a whole barrel. It's like 200 bottles. Like, come on, So it's really difficult here. I mean, I love Texas. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really good things about it. But at the same time, the whole liquor thing is just, it's breaking the heart, and it's totally useless. Like, I don't understand why they're doing it. Obviously to get more taxes, but I don't know how many bottles you guys can get where you're at, but it's crazy. It's literally crazy.
That is. I always think it's so we can do alcohol on Sundays here, but the law is you can't sell before noon or after, I think it's 8 p.m. So I always make the joke, well, they want to make sure you go to church, so no selling before noon, and make sure you go to bed early enough and not be hungover for work on Monday.
Absolutely. And what's funny, like with us, when we go on vacation to another state or something like that, like, it's so crazy. You wake up Sunday morning and like people are at the liquor store, and you go to Walmart and there's liquor in the Walmart, and I'm like, what is this strange world we're in? It's like, it's funny how there's those few states that are just so shrouded, and they don't, like Costco, the Kirkland brand of whiskey that they have is amazing. And I can't get it. So I'd have to go to like New Mexico or something like that to get some Kirkland whiskey, which I'm like, I'm good. I'm not going to drive that far just to get some Kirkland whiskey, but yeah. So where do you fall? Going to change this topic because we can go down some.
We'll go forever on that.
Yeah, exactly. So I forgot to ask you this. This should have been one of the first things I asked. What bottles, either Spirits of French Lick or other commercial bottles, are you really kind of into right now? It doesn't have to be recently, but I saw you sipping on something right now. So what are you really getting into right now? That's something I see you have quite a few bottles on the wall. So
yeah, that's about half of it. The other half's over there.
I understand.
So I've got to say, I had this whenever we were on the podcast or this show with I can't remember his name, Phil Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that the MB Roland is one that it's not, I don't want to call it as Alan calls it, the tractor whiskey. It's just my everyday whatever,
right,
because it's super, super complex and I love it. But it's one that, like, if I don't have a bottle of it, I'm going to buy a bottle of it because that's one I always want to have on hand. And that was probably one of the first distilleries that I, fell in love with as far as their flavor profile. And now knowing more about distillation, like, I want to know how they do that. Not because I want to copy it, but I find it really, really interesting.
Right. Absolutely.
Because, like, people say, all right, they get like tobacco. And most time that's like an astringent, slightly sweet and smoky thing.
Mm-hmm.
Their tobacco is like chewing Red Man.
Oh, wow.
It's like you just put a chew of Red Man in your mouth. It's wild. It's like molasses and sweet tobacco.
Oh, wow.
Other than that, like, I'm trying to and I'm drinking whiskey right now, Michter's Barrel Strength Rye.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I got that on a trade here probably about 6 months ago, and I've been kind of babying it just because I enjoy it, but I don't want to just drink it down.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get away from drinking bourbon all the time. That's kind of what I started out on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not that I don't like bourbon. I still like bourbon, but I'm getting to the point where I realize that there's a whole lot more out there.
Yeah.
Malt whiskeys. like I've got a few different scotches and things like that. I really, really like super briny scotches, but
Absolutely.
it's something, but it's also something that like I want to drink. I want a glass of it like once a week.
Okay.
Like I don't want to drink that every night,
Yep.
but like I love sitting down and drinking something and thinking, oh God, that's wicked. I love it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't curl your eye up, like I don't want it. You being in Texas, I think you'll understand that some of the Texas malted stuff that they've got
Absolutely.
is out of this fucking world.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's the constant heat, because I've had some bourbons from Texas and I'm like, just not
Yeah.
my thing.
Right.
But that malted is
Yep.
chef's kiss, you know.
Yep.
There's a bottle that a friend of mine sent me, and it's been gone forever because I had a real rough night one night and decided to polish that bottle off. But Del Bach,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah.
No, is that the brand or is that the bottle name?
That's the brand. They're out of Tucson, Arizona. Yeah. Yeah. They're
Is it
they're amazing.
Dorado? I think was the
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're mesquite smoked.
Del Bach.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, that is wild. And I honestly thought that was a Texas one. I never really looked into it because I
Yeah.
knew I'd never seen it here. So I was like,
Right.
I'm one of those people that like if I know I can't get something, I don't even try. Like
Yep.
I'll find it somewhere maybe one day, but like I don't try to break my heart on trying to find stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, like man, I've been trying to get into some botanical stuff, mainly because I want to learn more about it.
Absolutely.
I've always liked absinthe, but I liked it just because the story and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Which you realize that a lot of that story's kind of romanticized a whole lot. But like different botanical spirits and not just like commercial stuff, like gin and aquavit and all that, but
Mhm.
like seeing what you can do with different botanicals and how this botanical tastes this way, this one tastes this way, but you put those together and you've got three different things going on at once.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, so long story short, there's a lot as far as spirits, bottle wise. Like I said, I'll always have MB Rollers on hand. Solomon Scott Rye whiskey from French Lick is my
Yep.
trouble bottle. Like if I want to get in trouble, that's my bottle. I've got the tailored shelf over there that I don't
Yeah.
chase that stuff anymore. If I see it, I'll buy it and probably sell it to somebody else. But like, I don't know, man. I love the way it's hard to describe a perfect bottle or a bottle that I'm stuck on because I'm one of those people that like I've had two pours of this. Like here in a second, I'll grab something else. Like I like seeing how stuff progresses
Absolutely.
in a bottle after it oxidizes. I like seeing whatever I pick next after having this on my palate. I know what I think I've only got like 6 bottles that aren't opened.
Yep.
So I kind of remember some flavor profiles. I want to see what that tastes like after this has been in the glass and on my palate. Like that's where my mind goes when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. And that's really cool. Like, I try to, it's hard. I do weekly whiskey reviews. And so like I pop open a new bottle unless it's a bottle that I've had for a long time and haven't reviewed, which as of right now, it's been like 2 years that I've been doing this. So I've ran through some bottles. And so like I have 50 bottles open and like, still half full. And so like when what my go-to drink is, whatever I'm feeling for the night. Like if I'm feeling like lately, like this week I felt, and I don't normally drink a whole lot during the week. I normally save that for the weekend. But like if I'm feeling real peaty, I'll go down that path and I'll have some Lagavulin and some Lafroig or whatever, or some smoky striker from Andalusia or something like that. And that'll kind of set my palate up. Because once you have that, you can't go to sweet bourbon or something like that. But then some nights I just want something. We're sitting there watching TV or whatever. I had a big dinner or whatever, and I just get something super sweet, something or super simple like an Irish or something like that, and just sit there and kind of veg out.
Yep.
You don't have to think about it. Like one that's really kind of hit my palate right now is Powers, and they have like 5 or 6 different offerings. It's a Middleton distillery out of Ireland. They do amazing stuff. They've been around forever, but like I kind of just fell into them. And I've had a number of their offerings, and like their gold label, which is their baseline whiskey, is like, dude, you could that would do great in a rum and coke or a old fashioned or whatever. Like you could do whatever you wanted with it, but you can also sit with it neat and just kind of not have to think about it. There's enough complexity there to where you're drinking something, but it's not so much to where you're like, oh crap, I need a drink of water after that. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to show you one since you like Scotch and malt and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. So we went to. I wish I had more of another bottle. I'll tell you about here in a second. But we went to Mexico, and on the way back, like this is the first time I've ever flown internationally. So on our way
Okay.
back, they're like, "Hey, make sure you hit up the duty free, right?" So they had liters, big liter bottles of Scotch, and I got 2 Glenlivets and an Irish. The Irish is a Jameson triple, which triple distilled, triple cask.
Okay.
And then both of the Glenlivets were triple cask, and I don't think it says on here what they were. It was like French oak bourbon and something else. But all 3 bottles, it was buy one get one free. I got these for under $120, and they're liters.
So I think
Yeah.
I think my wife and I just last October, went to Cabo for our 20th anniversary. And I hit up the duty free, and I think I got that exact Glenlivet bottle because it was either that or Johnny Walker Red or whatever. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So I sat there the whole week we were in Cabo because, when you're in Mexico, they don't really have a whole lot of whiskey to drink. So, you get Jim Beam or whatever, maybe. And so like when we would come back to our hotel after a long day of doing whatever, like I'd sit and have a couple pours of that. And by the time and of course I couldn't take it. Once I opened it, I couldn't take it home. But once I got down, there was probably that much left in the bottle. Man, it was turning out really nice. I wish I would have had some sample bottles to throw it in or something because it was turning out really nice. And I was like, man, why can't they make this commercial? Which Glenlivet is a really easy drinking, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want something I had to fight with, just something after a long day. It was hot, just something to have a drink with. But yeah, no, that's pretty funny. You have the same bottle.
Yeah, that's honestly this is my like Scotch wise or malt wise. If I want something that like I just want to sit down and drink, like I know it tastes good. I don't have to think about it. I just pour it in the glass and drink it, and that's it. Now like I'll sit here and I'll smell it, and like because I haven't opened this one for a little while, or I haven't been into it. But like I don't care as long as it still tastes good and hasn't went bad, which is not going to happen. It's just that's my thing. That's this bottle. That's why I went over there before we started, and I was like, I need something else besides barrel strength rye whiskey.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That'll work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think and I've probably said this ad nauseum as well, but like people think way too much about whiskey when they're getting into it. Like they want to nerd out and go for all the allocated and all of these things, which that's cool. If that's what you want to do, everybody's going for the Blantons. It's fine. Blantons to me isn't great. Whatever. I don't care. But like to me, you find a bottle, you can just be like, dude, I know that's solid. That's always been solid. I'm going to grab it. Like for me, old Granddad Bottle and Bond, early times, but I'm a bottle and bond. I don't know why. I think that 4-year age statement, the 100 proof, it gives you just enough heat, just enough age on it. What else? I got a row of them up there. The Henry McKenna 10-year-old bottle and bond, which you can't find anymore because it used to be $35. Now, if you could find it, it's 150 or whatever. But like, just get a good baseline whiskey. One of my favorites was Evan Williams bottled and bond. It was like $15, super easy to drink. But the issue is I had 3 or 4 bottles in a row of it. And then I was like, I kind of got burnt out on it. And I was like, okay, I need to take a break from you for a little bit. I did the same thing with Monkey Shoulder, which is a blended Scotch. I drank that, like I have a half gallon of it up there. It's called the Super Monkey or the Gorilla or whatever. And I'm like, after that, I was like, okay, I need to take a break from you for a minute. So, and that's what's so cool about this whole, I'm going to say community, is like, we just try stuff and we're like, hey, I like this. You might also like this. If you're into peaty scotches, hey, let's get some Octomore in you and see if you like that. So
Right. And it is, and like I do agree that the like first getting into the community or first starting drinking or getting into distilled spirits as far as aged stuff or just weird stuff or mainline stuff, whatever it is, people do geek out a little bit. I was one of them.
yeah, so
Like
was I.
that's why I have the tater shelf there. I wish, part of me wishes I could go back and not spend some of the money I have, maybe. Um, but part of me is also happy to have this stuff because like I can in hope, or I guess I hope that like if I have a friend that says, hey, I'm wanting to get into whiskey, fine, come over, a couple nights throughout the week or weekend or whatever, we'll do it 5-6 times, however time it takes. The first thing I'm going to have you taste is all the stuff that I would say is better than the tater stuff.
Yep.
And easier available. And then I'm going to have you taste the tater stuff. And then after that, I'm going to try to find something that's comparable to the tater and do a blind tasting.
Yep.
And I want you to see that you don't have to go that route. If you want to after that, by all means, go do it. If you want to have a shelf full of Blanton's, all the stuff, do it.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool to have this because I can try to help somebody else out.
Absolutely.
And as far as the community goes, like I said, it's just crazy that as big as the community is and how helpful they are, whether it's, I can't get, at one point in time, I couldn't find barrel seagrass here to save my life, and I wanted to try it. So a friend of mine sent me like 6 ounces of it. What other kind of community or people that get together besides alcohol? Because beer people do it, wine people do it, and spirits people do it. But other than that, like, where else are you going to find something like that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one thing that people don't do enough. And I know in our community they do, but like other people, like I've been a proponent of this. Like I tell people, hey, if you got a cool bottle, share it with your friends. Well, my friend lives in Connecticut. I don't care. Send him a 2-ounce sample of it, get on a live stream with him, and sit there and talk about the damn whiskey and bullshit for a couple hours. You know what I mean? Like that's what.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that that's what the thing that'll never go away from 2020 has told us. It's like we don't have to be sitting next to each other to enjoy a drink together. You know what I mean? And that's where I mean, and it made podcasts blow up, which is great for both of us because we get that kind of. And I feel like both of us are in a niche enough to where it's not just like a basic, hey, we're talking about this, you're talking about specific things, I'm talking about specific things, and so it makes it just niche enough to where people stay tuned. And so it's really cool to see the community grow, and the way it's growing is more consumer based and it's not so much about what's in the glass, it's about who you're sharing that glass with. And that to me is a huge thing. That's a huge thing to me. So anyway.
Yeah. And like I like seeing also, so something that I've done a few times on my podcast, I need to do it a few more times, is like I've done stuff with distillers before, or distiller, I guess Alan's the only one that I've interviewed. There's a couple others that I wanted to get in there, and just I haven't had the opportunity yet. But like I like talking to just people. The first episode I done it with was actually my wife, but I called it "What Drives Your Spirit," and like I want to know what your spirit of choice is, which I already knew most of this about my wife anyway.
Right.
So it was just a good intro, and like I wasn't gonna do a first cool episode without her doing it because I'd probably sleep on the couch for a couple nights or something. But like I called it "What Drives Your Spirit," and I wanted to know, number one, obviously what spirit you like, why you like it, what drove you away from other spirits, what flavor profile you like, and what would you tell somebody new getting into that certain spirit? as far as how to start collecting different bottles or different flavor profiles. And to me, I'm like, I know as a working at a craft distillery, that's never going to be something that like I'm going to look back on like, well, Joe Blow said that they like cherry, like a cherry note in their bourbon, or it's not going to matter as far as what I do, but it does because like I know there are people out there chasing maybe the same flavor profile I'm chasing or I'm trying to build. I guess it'd just be a drive. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things I feel like we're on the same page about is it's not so much, we're trying to help people and get them to like, I don't care what you drink, and I don't care if you even drink. Like my wife, she's not a big drinker. And so like we went to dinner last night with some friends at this new restaurant. It was an amazing time. We had a great time. And she had a mocktail. And I'm like, it's all about the experience. Now she's a gin girl. She loves her gin, but she's like, I'm trying to cut back, whatever. You know how women do. But like I don't even care so much about the alcohol as much as like what is your flavor profile in life, and and let's go down that path, like because doing multiple whiskey tastings for people and stuff like that, you figure out like, okay, you like really strong cheeses, you like these dark chocolates, oh, you might also like this whiskey or something like that. I have this group of guys that I do tastings for quite often, and we're supposed to get back together here pretty soon. It's been a busy summer, I guess, but they are all really into rye whiskey, which I'm like, rye, to me, I love rye, but like it's not like this crowning thing that people are all into. Rye whiskey is like one of those things that you mix in a cocktail. Like that's what a lot of people think. And like they're sitting there throwing down some really cool ryes. Like they got the Jack Daniel's barrel proof rye. They've got a bunch of Old Saint Nick, and I know some of that's sourced, but anyway, they've got a lot of these bottles, and I'm like, wow, I did pretty good just leading y'all down that little path. And that's the thing, like once you figure out where that person is, you can say, hey, you're gonna like this, try this. And then they just kind of go. And then I constantly get texts from people like, hey, what about this bottle? You think I'd like this? Like, I don't know, maybe. But and that's the fun part about it. It's like, hey, try it. If you don't like it, guess what? Send it to me. I'll drink. It's fine, So
right.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy like that I used to work with at the firehouse, and like I'll get a message from him like once every couple months, and it'll be a video of a whiskey shelf, and he says, "Do you see anything that I need to pick up?" Now, mind you, when I first started working at the distillery and I was still at the fire department, like I told him and a few other guys, I'm like, "Hey, I've got a big collection. Why don't we get together some night, wherever, and we'll do a tasting?" One guy, he's a lightweight. He's like, "Hey, one drink and I'd be done." And another guy is the opposite end of that. He's like, "Well, we'll just drink till we have to go to work the next day." But then the guy that sends me these messages all the time now, he's like, I drink stuff in cocktails and I do stuff in Coke. I'm like, that's fine. Like, if you want to try something, and then we'll make a cocktail out of it, that's cool too. And he's like, it's not my thing. I don't drink for that. But now he's like, what bottles do I need to pick up?
Yep.
I'm like, who the fuck are you, and what happened to my buddy that didn't do this?
Absolutely.
I'll still probably mix some of it with Coke, but he goes, I'm trying to get into it. So so I've been trying to help him out with that. So I do want to say one thing, and I'm glad that you mentioned the cocktails and stuff. So I'm one of those people, like I will mainly drink stuff neat 90% of the time. That's just the way I am.
Yep.
I love cocktails also though. Like I love a Sazerac. I love an Enzoni. I love Bloody Marys. I love all that stuff also. But usually if I'm especially if I'm at home, like I don't feel like making a cocktail at home. No. I do it at work on Saturdays still. Like I don't want to screw with it. Now if I'm at work, I'm like, oh well, we've got a nice dishwasher. I don't have to clean things. I'll make me a cocktail. So like I love seeing what a spirit does in different variations of different cocktails and different mixers and things like that. I've always been a big pusher of drink it how you want it. If you want to take Blanton's Gold and put it in Coke, sure. I think it's a waste.
Yeah, but still.
If you want to make a old fashioned out of Happy 20 whatever, sure. I think it's a waste because to me an old fashioned was made to make bad whiskey taste good. But on the other side of that, elevated cocktails, like the stuff that still pushes the spirit forward, but it has stuff that accentuates it. Like I love stuff like that, and like that. Once again, that's kind of where my mind goes when I start coming up with not so much mash bills because that's a hard way. Like I'm still not in a way that I could say, okay, well, this percentage of corn is going to taste like this in 4 years. That you just can't do that. But on the clear spirits or botanical side, or whatever side you want to push that towards, I can start coming up with some ideas that, I might not make a cocktail that's going to change the world, but I can put a spirit out there and then put a cocktail in front of it and maybe change some people's minds about that certain spirit.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the alchemy of it is changing the spirit enough to where it's still present, it's there, but yet you enhance parts of it, you dull the parts that, like, if it's too tannic or if it's too astringent, you can kind of push that back with some of this or whatever. And it's the trial and error of like, oh, that was way too much lemon juice. Like I cut back on the lemon juice. And so then you sit there and you work through these cocktails. And that to me, I'm a big cocktail guy. Obviously whiskey cocktails. I do gin and vodka. Vodka to me is just like and I hate to say it because some people love vodka, and I'm sorry if you're a listener and love vodka, but like vodka is just base alcohol, just to get you tipsy. That's all it's there for. It has no flavor, or it shouldn't have no flavor. And so like to me, it better be
for skinny white women on diets.
Absolutely. And so it's either a gin, a brandy, a whiskey, something like that we're mixing in there, a mezcal, something like that, to where we're mixing something to where you can actually taste the base alcohol, a good rum, a big estery rum. And, I was talking to my buddy Moose from Andalusia, and he's so into nasty, I say nasty, they're very agricole rums, and he gave me a drink of one when I was at the distillery. Yeah, very funky. When I was at the distillery the last time I was over there, and it was a white rum. I mean, it was not aged at all, and that thing tasted like similar to a Isla Scotch in the fact that like it was a dirty gem sock with like nasty banana peel, but like not nasty. It was not nasty at all, but it tasted and smelled like that. And for some people, they're going to be like, why the hell would you drink that? But like, it was good, but I don't know if I would have another drink of it, but it was good. But I'm thinking like what a cocktail would do. And that's the thing with rum. And I've talked about this before, but that's the thing with rum, especially, is they'll take an $8,000 bottle of rum and mix it with something and make a Mai Tai out of it. And then they're like, hey, try this. And like, whereas in the whiskey community, we don't do that. You don't take, Weller 107 and mix it with something. You just don't do it. But I think that personally needs to change to where we're looking more cocktail adjacent, because like there's so much flavor you can get from a cocktail. Like I like to use whiskeys that are way different than the cocktail should be. Like when I make like a whiskey sour or something like that, I want it to have a big, heavy base note, because that acidic note that's on top of that is going to play nice with that. So like I like to do a real peaty Scotch as a whiskey sour, and it turns into like this crazy, like it's not for everybody, obviously, but it turns into a crazy symphony of like discordance, but yet it all goes together. And so that's one thing that people, especially in the whiskey community, need to understand. Like, yes, a neat pour of whiskey, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I prefer it and I drink it most of the times. But a good cocktail, especially if you got somebody, or if you're going to a bar that is known for making great cocktails, a cocktail is where it's at, for sure. For sure.
Or order the cocktail. I mean, because like I've been to bars before, and you flip open the menu and it's 30 or 40 different bourbons or whiskeys, and yeah, some of those on there I may not have tried, and I'd like to try those, but like I will probably have another opportunity to try that in the future. But the guy behind the bar that's making an Inzoni or a Manhattan, and I will never get to try that person's cocktail again.
Yep. Yep.
That's a no-brainer for me. I'm going to the cocktail.
Yep.
I think after that cocktail, I might try something neat. But like, first thing I'm doing is like, what's your specialty? What do you like making? What do you like drinking? Make that for me.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this one up a little bit, but one thing I wanted to ask you is, being that you're newer to the whole whiskey making scene, where do you see yourself? And I know this is very subjective. Where do you see yourself in the whiskey making and distilled spirit world in, say, a year, 2 years? Where do you see that going for you personally?
I think I'm going to be where I'm at, as far as working wise. Something that I want to get into a whole lot more, and it's something that I'm toying around with, doesn't work project wise, is blending stuff. I think there's not enough love for blended whiskeys or blended anything out there. I'm not afraid of different finishes. Now, I think there's some finishes that have been overdone, 100%. Yeah. I still love Amberana finished stuff, but we do some special things there at work to where we put it back in a new barrel after the Amberana and tone it down a whole lot. I like that, and I think doing it that way, that would be a good blend with something else, and I will never call it cigar batch.
No.
Will not happen. But like that's kind of where I see myself in, like, a year, 2 years. I don't know. But like I want to get into the blending stuff. I've got a couple, and I'll message you about it, but I want to put a lot of it on here. But like I've got a really cool idea for something that I don't think has ever been done, and that's not me tooting my own horn, but I was like, I thought of something and I was like, I've never seen this before. Maybe I want to try this. I know Alan's talked about this before, but like we've got an eclipse coming up next year, and I've got a project that I'm working on, and that'll be a really, really cool one. But it's just in the next year or so, it's going to be more learning, probably fucking some things up.
Absolutely.
And trying to find kind of my niche as far as where I want to go, and I honestly don't want to even find that. I don't want to. I want to be able to kind of touch all corners of this wild ride and this wild life of distilled spirits.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to be boxed in, I guess.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's the good thing about being in the not only the place, but in the job that you're in, is that luckily the people that you work for are just like, there you go, make the thing, do the thing, and so like you're able to do that and do these crazy mash bills, not crazy, but these different mash bills that it's not like a 75-25, whatever, so like it's one of those things to where, like, if you can grow as not only as a distiller but as a person through your work, that to me is the main thing. And I don't know, and I can edit this out if needed, but I don't know if you still have your whatever, your GoFundMe for your wife or not online yet anymore, but if you want to promote that at all, please do.
The GoFundMe's still up, so are you okay if I talk about the whole situation for just a second?
Absolutely, yes, please do.
Yeah, so my wife was diagnosed with BII, breast implant illness. She had breast implants put in about 11 or 11 and a half, 12 years ago, somewhere around in there. And started having some problems first off, started having some migraines, then it went into body aches, not sleeping. I kind of all got chalked up to stress from work because we both worked on the ambulance. She left the ambulance, still hasn't had any relief as far as anything. Doctor finally said, hey, why don't we talk about this? And it's BII. The problem with BII is there's a plethora of diagnosis or symptoms, I guess you should say, that can lead to a diagnosis of this, but there's also no testing for it. It's pretty much if you have these and you've had treatments for these and nothing is working and you have breast implants, that's the problem, essentially. So she was actually scheduled to have surgery January of 2025. There are 6 specialists in the United States that specialize in taking implants out and doing it the correct way, taking everything out, sending it off for lab work, things like that. We ended up doing a fundraiser at work that paid for a good portion of it. We ended up taking the loan out for the rest to get it paid off because we knew that if something would happen, she also has 2 growths on her right breast as well.
Oh, wow.
But if something would happen with those or somebody would get, not be able to do the surgery, they could bump her up, but it has to be paid off. So we took out a loan to pay off the rest of it. We actually have to go to Miami to do it. We could have done it more local, but it would have cost us another $12,000. Actually, if we did it with a local place, it's up in Greenwood or Carmel, Indiana. It's Ritchie section. That's why. It's just the way it is. But so we're going to Miami. Got it all paid for. She got the call a little over a week and a half ago that they had a spot open up August 29th of this year. So
that's awesome.
Later on this month.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's great. I won't say I haven't lost sleep because I've lost some sleep, just kind of maybe staying awake watching her sleep, I guess.
I understand.
But yeah, so as you said earlier, the GoFundMe, we still have the GoFundMe up. Anything that goes into that now is just going to pay off this loan that we took out. It was a little bit of a financial burden that we weren't expecting. But it is what it is. We'll get it figured out. So the GoFundMe's still up. If anybody wants to reach out, also, if they don't want to go through GoFundMe, because I know some people don't like doing that. Also have Venmo, stuff like that. That's really about it. It's just kind of, we've got everything pretty much taken care of financially now. We've got a place to stay down there. We have to stay for minimum 10 days after the surgery. So we'll actually, we'll be gone for pretty much 2 weeks, because I did tell her, and I think I made somebody at the distillery was asking me about this one day, and I was talking about it, and I said, yeah, we're going to go to, it's going to be a 2-day trip, or, driving down. I said, we're going down 1 day early because come hell or high water, she's spending a day on the beach, enjoying whatever.
Absolutely.
And somebody got mad like a patron at the distillery kind of got shitty about it. They're like, well, you're doing a fundraiser, but you're going down for a couple of days of vacation. I'm like, no. I'm taking my wife to the beach because that's where she's happy before she has a life-altering surgery.
Absolutely.
You can fuck right off.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so yeah, the GoFundMe's still up. Any funds that go into there, I get them. If anything comes in, it comes in once a week. It's just automatically going into the fund to pay off the loan. Anything other than that, that's really just about it, man. I do want to say I appreciate you helping out with that. I do still have your winnings as soon as Alan and I talk, because I think he has something that he wants to get you as well.
I appreciate
we're
that.
Go together and get that stuff. So
okay. Well, and so send me the link to the GoFundMe, because I'll put it in the description below and everything. Because that's the whole thing with this community is like, it's not just about the whiskey. It's not just about the spirit. It's not about any of this. It's about raising each other up and putting each other on a pedestal to where, like, this person's in need. We need to do something about it. And
Yeah.
I've probably preached about this way too much, but like, get off your high horse and help people. And make sure that, you know, when you go to bed at night, you can say, hey, I did what I could today. And if it's on your heart
Yep.
and however you feel, if you want to donate, great. There'll be a link in the description below and all that stuff. You can donate. It's obviously going to a good cause. And yeah, I don't even know what else to say about that. That it breaks my heart. And I'm sorry that you guys are having to go through this, but I'm glad that you're able to get it taken care of and everything's going to go great. And I'm going to be praying for you guys the entire time. And
I appreciate that, man. I really do.
for whatever that means, coming from a very Christian background, like that is one of the things that has helped me through my life. And I'm not trying to get spiritual on you, but it brings people
You're
together.
good, man.
It brings people together, and it's one of those things that, like, if I'm hurting, you're hurting. If you're hurting, I'm hurting, and that's how it should be. And if we treat people with a little bit more respect and more kindness, then that's going to get reciprocated throughout the world. And so, on that, if you have any other last comments you want to say, we're going to break off here. Stay on because I want to talk to you for a minute. But you have anything else you want to say, or actually promote your socials? Please promote your socials and all that stuff. Your podcast and all that stuff.
So yeah, you can find my podcast I believe anywhere that you stream podcasts. Search Still Learning. I did have a little bit of an issue to where it wasn't getting sent out to where it was supposed to be, but I believe now I have it opened up to pretty much any platform now. So once again, search Still Learning. There are a few of them called that, so it's one that looks like you're looking down some whiskey barrels is the thumbnail for it. Is the best thing I can tell you. There's a few episodes on there. There will be more, I promise. You can find me on Facebook, either Still Learning. I do have a page on there that I post some stuff, trying to post some more, but Facebook just is slow to kind of catch on when you're first doing a new page. So get frustrated a little bit with that, but it is what it is. But I'll work through that. And then also my personal Facebook. I don't do friend request stuff anymore because I've gotten just some followers and I just decided to go that route with it. But it's Justin Whaley on Facebook, WHALEY. And then you can find me at Spirits of French Lick as well. I do encourage, if you're in the area there, to come check it out. I do most of the tours. That's probably going to be slowing down a little bit because we are losing one of our guys in the back. So I'm going to have a little bit more responsibilities. But if you do a tour on a weekend or something like that, or if you call ahead and schedule and request me to do it, I promise it is, and this is not me gloating or tooting my horn, but I've had people tell me that they had just came from Kentucky and done 5 or 6 tours down there, and then they did a tour with me, and they liked my tour the best. So come and do a tour at Spirits of French Lick. I'd love to have anybody there. I love talking the history that we have. I'm still learning the history, but I love talking our processes. I love seeing what people think of it and kind of introducing them to a new way of distillation, or I guess a new old way of distillation or fermentation. But yeah, come check it out. And I do want to say, man, I appreciate you having me on here. This is my first solo podcast. Actually,
shut up
with somebody.
Okay,
so,
cool.
No,
cool. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. Popped your cherry on that one.
Let me rephrase that. I did one with Alan, but it was for his if you have ghosts.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That's Alan. He's your brother.
Yeah.
That doesn't count. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that. All right, guys. Well, I will catch y'all on the flip side, and as always, keep your spirits up.